Hello, 7th grade students. Back today with the next installment of Refugee. We are joining Joseph, as we talked about yesterday, who is trying to escape Nazi Germany. So we're on page 56. Joseph, somewhere on the Atlantic Ocean, 1939, 6 days from home. Ruthie skipped ahead of Joseph along the sunny promenade deck, happier than he'd ever seen her before. And why not? The MS St. Louis was a paradise. Banned from movie theaters in Germany because she was a Jew, Ruthie had seen her first cartoon on board during movie night and loved it, even if it was followed by a newsreel with Hitler yelling about Jews. 3 times a day, they ate delicious meals in a dining room, laid out with white linen tablecloths, crystal glasses, and shining silverware, and stewards waited on them hand and foot. They had played shuffleboard and badminton, and the crew was putting up a swimming pool, which they promised to fill with seawater once the St. Louis hit the warm Gulf Stream. Everyone on the crew had treated Joseph and his family with kindness and respect, despite his father's repeated warnings that all Germans were out to get them. In 5 days, Papa hadn't come out of their cabin once, not even for meals, and Joseph's mother had barely left his side. And the crew wasn't just being nice because they didn't know Joseph and his family were Jews. No one wore their Jewish armbands on the ship, and there were no J's above any of the passenger compartments because all the passengers were Jews. All 908 of them. They were all going to Cuba to escape the Nazis. And now that they were finally away from the threats and violence that followed them everywhere in Germany, there was singing and dancing and laughter. 2 girls around Ruthie's age wearing matching flowery dresses were leaning over the railing and giggling. Joseph and Ruthie went over to see what they were doing. One of the girls had found a long piece of string and was dangling it over the side, tickling the noses of passengers who were sleeping in chairs down on A deck. The current victim kept batting at his nose like there was a fly on it. He bopped his nose hard enough to jerk awake, and Ruthie laughed hysterically. The girls yanked up the string and they all dropped to the deck behind the rail where the man couldn't see them laughing. "I'm Joseph," he told the other girls when they'd all gathered themselves together, "and this is Ruthie." "Joseph just turned 13, Ruthie told the girls. "He's going to have his bar mitzvah next Shabbos. A bar mitzvah was the ceremony at which a boy officially became a man under Jewish law. It was usually held on the first Shabbos, the Sabbath, the Jewish day of rest, after a boy's 13th birthday. Joseph couldn't wait for his bar mitzvah. "If there's enough people," Joseph reminded his sister. "I'm Renata Aber," said the older of the 2 girls, "and this is Evelyn." They were sisters, and amazingly, they were traveling alone. "Our father is waiting for us in Cuba," Renata told them. "Where's your mama?" Ruthie asked. "She wanted to stay in Germany," Evelyn said. Joseph could tell it wasn't something they were comfortable talking about. "Hey, I know something funny we can do," he told them. It was a trick he and Klaus had played on Herr Meyer once upon a time. Thinking about Klaus made Joseph think about other things, but he blinked away the bad memories. The MS St. Louis had left all that behind. "First," Joseph said, "we need some soap." Once they had found a bar, Joseph showed them how to soap up a door handle so that it was so slick it was impossible to turn. They used it on the door handles of cabins up and down the passageway on A deck, then hid around the corner and waited. Soon enough, a steward balancing a large silver tray came down the hall from the other end and knocked on a door. Joseph, Ruthie, Renata, and Evelyn had to swallow their snickers as the steward reached down with his free hand and tried and failed to open the door. The steward couldn't see because of the big platter he held, and as he fumbled with the knob, he lost his hold on the tray and the whole thing came crashing down with a great clatter. All four of them burst out laughing, and Joseph and Renata pulled the two younger children away before they could be caught. They collapsed behind one of the lifeboats, panting and giggling. As Joseph dried his eyes, he realized he hadn't played like this, hadn't laughed like this for many years. Joseph wished they could stay on board the St. Louis forever. Page 60, Isabel. Just outside Havana, Cuba, 1994. The boat was heavy in Isabel's arms, and she was afraid of dropping it, even though there were 5 other people carrying it with her. She and Ivan held the middle of the boat on either side, while Ivan's parents and Isabel's father and grandfather carried the front and back. Senora Castillo, Ivan's mother, was dark-skinned and curvy and wore a white kerchief over her dreadlocks. Isabel's mother, almost 9 months pregnant, was the only one not helping to carry the boat. It was big and heavy to begin with, and they had packed it with the gas cans, plastic soda bottles filled with fresh water, condensed milk, cheese and bread, and medicine. Everything else had to be left behind. Nothing was more important than making it to Florida. It was night, and a waning moon peeked out from behind scattered clouds. A warm breeze lifted Isabel's short curly hair and raised goosebumps on her arms. Fidel Castro had said that anyone who wanted to leave was welcome to go, but that was hours ago. What if he had changed his mind? What if there was a line of police waiting to arrest them at the beach? Isabel hefted the boat to get a better grip and tried to pick up her pace. They left the village's gravel road and hauled the boat over the dunes to the sea. All Isabel could see was the metal side of the boat in front of her face, but she heard a commotion behind her. There were people on the beach, lots of them. She panicked, her worst fears come true, and suddenly a blinding light lit her up. Isabel cried out and let go of the boat. Ahead of her, Senora Castillo staggered and lost her grip too, and the front of the boat slammed into the sand. Isabel turned, holding a hand up in front of her eyes and expecting to see a police searchlight shining on her. What she saw instead was a television camera. "You're on CNN," a woman said in Spanish, her face nothing but a silhouette against the light. "Can you tell us what made you decide to leave?" "Quickly," Senora Castillo called from the other side of the boat. "Pick it back up. We're almost to the water." Isabel said, frozen in the bright light of the camera. "Do you have any relatives back in Miami that you want to send a message to?" the reporter asked. "No, Isabel, the boat," Poppy called. The others had already lifted the boat up out of the stand and were lurching toward the sound of the crashing waves. The bright lights of the camera swung away from Isabel and lit up what looked like a party on the beach. More than half their village was on the sand, clapping, waving, and cheering on the boats. And there were so many boats. Isabel's family had worked in secret all night with the Castillos, worried someone might hear them, but apparently everybody else had been doing the same thing. There were inflatable rafts, canoes with homemade outriggers, rafts made of inner tubes tied together, boats built out of styrofoam and oil drums. A rickety-looking raft made out of wooden shipping pallets and inner tubes raised a bedsheet sail, and as it caught the wind, the villagers on the beach cheered. When another raft made out of an old refrigerator sank, everyone laughed. The camera light swung around again, and that's when Isabel saw the police. There was a small group of them up on the rocks overlooking the inlet. Not nearly as many as there had been in Havana, but enough to arrest her family for trying to leave Cuba. But these police weren't doing anything. They were just standing and watching. Castro's order to let people leave must have still been good. "Chabela," her mother cried. "Chabela, come on." Mummy was already in the boat, and Poppy was helping Ivan in. Senor Castillo was trying to get the motor started. Isabel waded into the water, the waves lapping up to the bottom of her shorts. She was almost to Poppy's outstretched arms when she saw her father's eyes go wide. Isabel looked back over her shoulder. 2 of the policemen had broken from the group and were running toward the water, toward them. No, they're coming for me," Poppy cried. Isabel fell into the water and swam the rest of the way to the boat, but her father was already climbing over the side. "Start the engine," he cried. "No, wait for me," Isabel yelled, spitting seawater. She got a hand to the side of the boat and looked back. The 2 policemen hit the surf and were running high-legged through the waves. Worse, the other policemen were running too, and they were all headed for the Castillo's boat. Hands grabbed Isabel and helped her climb the side of the boat. "Ivan!" But when he got her on board, Ivan and his mother had reached their hands out for the two policemen who were chasing them. What were they doing? No, Poppy cried, scrambling as far away from them as he could. Ivan and Senor Castillo grabbed the arms of the two policemen and pulled them on board, and they all collapsed into the bottom of the boat. The policemen pulled off their berets, and Isabel recognized one of them instantly. One was Louis, the Castillo's older son. The other policeman shook out his long black hair, and Isabel was startled to realize it wasn't a policeman at all. It was a policewoman. When she took Louis's hand, Isabel guessed she was his girlfriend. This must have been the Castillo's plan all along, for Louis and his girlfriend to run away with them, but they had never told Isabel and her family. A pistol rang out again over the waves, and the crowd on the beach cried out in panic. The pistol fired again. Pat, ping, and the hull of the Castillo's boat rang as the bullet hit it. The police were shooting at them, but why? Didn't Castro say it was all right to leave? Isabel's eyes fell on Louis and his girlfriend, and she understood. They had been drafted into the police, and they weren't allowed to leave. They were deserters, and deserters were shot. The motor coughed to life, and the boat lurched into a wave, spraying Isabel with seawater. The villagers on the beach cheered for them, and Senor Castillo revved the engine, leaving the charging policemen in their wake. Isabel braced herself between two of the benches, trying to catch her breath. It took her a moment to process it, but this was really happening. They were leaving Cuba, her village, her home, everything she'd ever known behind. Isabel's father pitched across the rolling boat and grabbed Senor Castillo by the shirt. What are you playing at, letting them on board, he demanded. What if they follow us? What if they send a Navy boat after us? You've put us all in danger. Senor Castillo batted Geraldo Fernandez's arms away. We didn't ask you to come along. It's our gasoline, Isabel's father yelled. They kept arguing, but the engine and the slap of the boat against the waves drowned their words out for Isabel. She wasn't paying any attention anyway. All she could think about was the 90 miles they still had to go and the water pouring in from the gunshot hole in the side of the boat. We'll stop there and we'll begin on page 66, Mahmoud, tomorrow. Thank you so much, champions, and have a really good day. Take care of yourselves. Bye.